How's it going, guys? It's had a pretty decent day at work, I guess. And then I cut out early from work and then went over to DYNO Joe's, spent the afternoon at his place. I picked up a saw off him, a future project for the channel, and then I had a bunch of saws dynoed and thought maybe I'd pop in here. This is that cylinder I cut the base on. I'm just checking things out. I haven't even had time to touch this today. I'm probably not going to touch it today. Figured I'd make you a video on some of the results. So let's go over some of them. The 4910 that I detuned, I took the pipe off from, that one that made 7.4 horse that I detuned, put a different cylinder on it. I was aiming, to be honest, I wanted about 6.5 is what I wanted, but I'd have settled for 6. But I did some experimental things. I mean, you guys that follow the channel or whatever, you know, I tinker, I dabble, I experiment. I'm always trying different stuff. In fact, the last 3 days I've had on my brain, that's how my brain works. I've had this on my brain, but I've been trying to hunt down a 661 crank because I want to de-stroke a clone 660, and I want to use a 661 crank and piston in a 660 big bore top end on a clone 660 and see what just see what happens. I used to de-stroke 400 small blocks in the racing world. I used to de-stroke them with 350 cranks, and they ran like scalded dogs. So I thought I would apply it in a chainsaw and see what would happen. But needless to say, I come close. It made 5.89 horse. I'm gonna do some test. I need to do some testing. Dynos aren't really a way to gauge on how fast the saw is gonna be. I've got 6 horsepower saws that put up 6 horsepower, and I have the identical saw that's 7.3. And when doing timed cuts, the 6 horsepower one outcuts it. A dyno is a tool to just kind of let you know what you're doing, you know, what you're changing and how the saw is behaving to it. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, if you got a saw that makes 10 horsepower, but it's at 9,000 RPM, and you got a 6 horsepower one that likes to pull 12 in the cut, there's just so many variables that can go on. But I got 5.89 out of it, so I took it from 7.4 to 5.89. I think if I go in there, I want to see how it behaves under load in the cut. Do some time testing against my 6.1 horse one, so we'll go from there. But that's the dyno sheet for today. It was done today, but put up 5.89 at 10,250 is where she peaked out, and that was the 7 point. That's the same saw, but when I put up 7.41, but that was on a pipe in Crazy Port Work. Let's see here. This one made 6.12. That's the one I competed with at 10,000. That's kind of what I'm curious at. So this one's peaking 250 RPM higher in the cut. So, but I was gearing this saw more towards a get-together saw. I still follow the firewood rules, but let's see here. That was this is another one of my 4910 dyno runs. That was a really good saw. I ended up selling it. Kind of wished I wanted. It only put up 5.23, but man, that was a firewood cutting machine. So that's another one of 7.2 horse. Okay, I don't think I've talked about these, but I had the 670s. Both them 670 Johnson Reds have been dynoed. One put up 6.85, almost 7 horse. That's the one I did the 36-inch long bar video on. and my other one is 7.7. I got two different graphs. This one's not laid out the same, but the 7.7 physically cuts faster, but doesn't have, it's a more narrow power band due to the fact it's a shorter blowdown saw. Whereas the one that put up almost 7 horse is, it comes up, hits, and it holds its power for a real long time. It's really broad-banded, really excellent felling saw. The 36, you guys are probably pretty interested about that. It put up 7.4 originally with this cylinder. I know I'm babbling on, probably boring you guys, but this cylinder, I had a velocity stack and a pod filter on it, and it was 7.04 horse. And I took all that off and put it back in stock trim, left the same identical muffler mod, but ported it differently, more geared towards work / mild play saw, and it still averaged, we did a bunch of runs on it, but the average out of all the runs, it was 6.5 horse, but it did touch up like 6.8 a couple times. Dynos are funny things. As saws heat up, things change, tunes change. We tuned on the carburetor a couple different times on them runs, but that's still, and that's at 11,750, so almost 12,000 RPMs where she's peaking at. That's why that thing blisters through the wood like it does. But yeah, it's still look at the, you know, the power curve of it. It's really good work saw. That's just a good all-around saw. Now, just for giggles and morbid curiosity, I took the 872i Neotech down there that's got that ported Warhawk cylinder on it, and it averaged out about 7.25. So I did see it hit 7.5 a couple times on there. It was tuned a little rich. Didn't bother to try tuning on anything on it. I just wanted to throw it on there and see what she would do. That saw I want to send down the road. I don't have a need for it, so I want to do some horse trading or whatever. I want to send it down the road. So if anyone's interested in that 872, get a hold of me on Marketplace if we can do some sort of trade or something. The 500s, they're difficult to get dynoed. They're just, I dug out my other sheet from my other one. Both of them, this is where the clutch slipped and fell off. They start out funky, and then they give you a good mid thing on the dyno. The computer thing just goes haywire. But the other one was on this sheet. I couldn't find my other one, but they're between 8.5 and 9 horse. It's looking like. That was my first one, and this is the second one, and it peaked out at 8.42 out of a bunch of different runs. But it did the same thing, all funky, and it still sloped off pretty hard. I still think the clutch was slipping on it a little bit, but that's one of them things. Those saws are saws that show that just because you don't get a major huge dyno run, they cut like the dickens. We've done my 461s. Sounds like Tucker's getting upset about something. One's 9.29 and the other one's 8.7. Now I suspect this 8.7 one with max airflow or a high flow air filter like I built for the other one will probably pick up close to a half a horse. We did some testing pulling air filters on some other saws, and it's amazing pulling an air filter. Some of the saws gained a half a horse, but those 461s are beast. So that's the 461s. The 661C M-Tronic that I did, it put up 10.2 horse average. I did see it, get up around 10.5, and then we didn't get a sheet on it or whatever, but when we pulled the filter, it gained almost a half a horse just by pulling the air filter and that snout thing off the back. So that saw is definitely, I'm going to have to save my pennies. That saw is most definitely going to have to get. The 500s and that 661 are definitely going to have to get a max airflow kit or some sort of aftermarket filter. Half a horse difference just by popping a filter is huge. The Neotech 660. I got some of the failure runs and some of the good runs here. The first time I ported it, this one's 919. Okay, this would be the first time I ported it. It was 8.29. I was severely disappointed in it. That was with it. I think it was when it had a 94 exhaust roof. I'm trying to remember. It cut good. It was a decent cutter, but I was disappointed in it. And then I went in it, blew it up, then rebuilt it again. I got 8.64, and then this time around, third time's the, well, this will be the fourth time. It's averaging 9.63. I did see it hit 10 on a couple of the runs, but Joe did an average of all the runs that I did on it or whatever, and it's averaging, you know, out of all the runs, 9.63. That's its latest port version. It's running pretty good. The couple of the runs, the carb's giving us, it's got a Chinese carburetor on it. I think if I was to put a Tilson carb on that or a good Walbro carb, and I think if I built one of the mufflers like what I got on the 661, I think if I took about 3 degrees of blowdown out of it, I think I could get that saw, maybe add a degree or two more in intake timing. I think I could get that saw where it'd be, you know, probably 10.5, pretty easy. I might revisit it and try it again. I don't know. It is just for Clone Wars. I might just leave it alone the way it is. I might build a muffler and then just leave it alone. So I think that covers all the dyno runs I had today. Like I said, pretty good numbers. I'll keep you guys updated as I'm doing this. I'll show you the new project right here. It's a CS620 P that he robbed some parts out of. It's never seen wood. Joe did do a video on this saw on the dyno. This has a vaned crankshaft in it, or knuckle crank, or whatever you want to call it. When I was over there, asked, you know, kind of hinted around if he had any projects that I could pick up for the channel, and he showed me this, so I purchased it off him. I like 620s. It's not been ported yet. It does have a vaned crank, so it might be kind of interesting to see me port this and what happens with a vaned crank. If I don't like the vaned crank, just a second. Let me dig. I'm gonna pause you guys. I gotta dig all this out. Alright, sorry about that. I wanted to dig this out. I do have this carburetor I bought brand new for some testing. It still has the limiters, and I don't even think I've opened the limiters. No, it is fully adjustable, but I know I didn't bypass the thing inside it. But I bought this brand new 620 carb. This case right here is a 620 case that was brand spanking new, that I bought to steal the top end off for some other project. And then I've got another ported 620 top end right here, piston and stuff for it. But this was one of my earlier experimental ones. It ran good, but it didn't get the gains like I was hoping. It's not nothing over. It's not like some of my other 620s. It would work in a pinch to get somebody's saw going if they burned it up and, you know, only wanted like 10% gain or whatever. I think, you know, I did some stuff to that I probably shouldn't have. It's still like usable and stuff, but it's still more power than a stock one, but it's not like my other ones. But I have 620 coil right here, so I have the parts that are missing. It's a mess in here. I have the parts that are missing out of this one because I do believe he told me to check it over real good, but I do believe it's just missing coil and carburetor right now. And I'll probably pop the cylinder, port this thing, and if I'm not happy with the main crank, I can just swap everything over to that other brand new dusty crankcase that I got sitting there. So I'll be able to make a really good saw out of this. Excellent work saw. And I'll admit I'm not looking forward to the muffler mod. I hate doing muffler mods on them. Absolutely hate it. They're horrible to do. To do the way I think to do it the right way. It's time consuming. I have more time into doing a muffler mod on them than what it is to cut the base and do all the port work. It takes me longer to do the muffler mod on them. It's just how it goes sometimes, I guess. But, alright, I've blabbered on here for it looks like 16 minutes. So this will be a future project. Might even be a super cool project to do some dyeing on, maybe do one up with some different colors. But so next day or so I'll be working on this 372, trying to get that up and running. I really wanted it up and done by the time I went to Joe's so I could have that one dyno too, but it is what it is. There's always next time. You guys take it easy, enjoy, have a good one.